Hello everyone, welcome to Atubu Concepts. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use one single dress block to create 3 different types of dress block. Instead of having 3 different types of dress block, you have just one, and that one will give you the 3. These are the tools that I'm going to be using. Here I have eraser and a pencil. I will encourage you to use pencil to do your drafting. And when you make mistakes along the line, have eraser by your side to always erase and continue. This is my block paper. I'm going to be using this block paper because I've already mastered all my lines. But for you, I will encourage you to use a lighter pattern paper for your drafting. Let your pattern paper receive all the mistakes that you are going to make along the line. When you finally get it right, you cannot transfer it to the real block paper. Then you cannot use markers to mark them out. And if you don't have some of these tools, especially these French cuffs, don't bother yourself, just work with what you have. You will definitely get the same result. I'm using all these tools because I want my tutorial to be faster. Yes. These are the 2 block papers that I'm going to use. This one is for the back and this is for the front. I'm going to keep the back one aside for later so that we start with the front. And we're going to be working with inches today. I'm going to be using my body measurement for this tutorial today. I've already taken my measurements from 1 to 11. So I'm going to go according to how I number them. Now, we are going to be working with 2 measurements. The first one is the vertical measurement. That's the measurement coming from up straight down. While the second one is the horizontal measurement. That's the measurement going across. First, we are going to start with the vertical measurement. Before we start, I need to create a start line. Just an inch from the beginning of my drafting paper. This start line happens to be the neck and the shoulder line, and most of the measurements are going to be taken from this particular line. I've put my tape at the start line, bringing all the way down. So number 1 is the bust vertical measurement. My bust vertical measurement is 10. From the shoulder down, I'll mark 10. Number 2, waist vertical measurement. My waist vertical measurement is 16. From the shoulder down, I'll mark 16. Number 3, my hip vertical measurement. My hip vertical measurement is 24. From the shoulder down, I'll mark 24. Number 4, the full length of the dress. The full length of my dress is 38. But I'm going to add 2 inches for the side that this only applies to the front, not to the back. Then I'm going to mark 40. Now I'm going to roll across, label the lines, and know which is which as we go further. This is the shoulder line, bust line, waistline, hip line, hemline, and the center front. Number 5, neck circumference. My neck circumference is 15. When I divide 15 by 2, I'll have 7.5. That 7.5 is what I'm going to use to create the neckline of the half part of the back and half part of the front. To find the depth of the front neckline, you measure 3 at the center front. Like this. To find the width, you measure 3 at the shoulder line. For a basic neck, you can use 3 by 3. Connect this point to this point with a French cuff. If you don't have a French cuff, not to worry, carefully maneuver it with your hand. Number 6, shoulder measurement. My shoulder measurement is 15. When I divide 15 by 2, I'll have 7.5, and that 7.5, I'm going to add half an inch for ease allowance. Because our body is not a robot, our body needs half an inch ease allowance to be able to move to any direction. So I will now have 8. 8 here. Because our shoulder is not straight, it's on a slope, we are going to slope this point by 1 inch. And we'll connect this point now to this point here. Number 7, armhole circumference. My armhole circumference is 17. When I divide 17 by 2, I'll have 8.5. And that 8.5, I'm going to add half an inch to it for ease allowance. When I add half an inch, I'll have 9. And that 9, I'm going to reduce it by 1 inch. Because if I use exactly 9 inches, the armhole is going to be bigger than the measurement. No matter what the circumference of your armhole is, divide it by 2, add half an inch for ease allowance, then you reduce that number by 1 inch. Then you will get your armhole measurement accurately. I mark 8 inches. I'm not going to draw a straight line. I don't use straight line to create my armhole. I use points. So before I remove my tape, I'm going to mark the midpoint of 8. The midpoint of 8 is 4. This midpoint, I'm going to step it back by 1 inch because the front armhole is deeper than the back armhole. The back armhole is going to be half an inch, while the front is going to be 1 inch. I'm stepping it in by 1 inch. Now I'm going to draw a line across this point. This will be upper bust line. I'm going to come back to finish this armhole properly. Before then, let's find the circumference of the bust. Number 8, bust circumference. My bust circumference is 40. When I divide 40 by 4, I have 10. And that 10, I'm going to add half an inch for ease allowance. That will be 10.5 here. Go to the upper bust. Also mark the same 10.5. Now we are going to connect this point to this inner point, and this inner point to this point here with a French curve. If you don't have a French curve, please carefully maneuver it with your hand. Number 9, waist circumference. My waist circumference is 32. When I divide 32 by 4, I'll have 8. And that 8, I'm going to add half an inch for ease allowance. Then I add 1 inch for the dart that is going to come to this area later. And that will be 9.5. 9.5. Number 10, hip circumference. My hip circumference is 44. When I divide 44 by 4, I have 11. And I'm going to add half an inch for ease allowance. Then that will be 11.5. I'm going to mark 11.5. The 11.5, I'm going to bring it down to the hemline and mark the same. 11.5. Because we are creating a straight dress block first. Now I'm going to connect here to this point to this point, and here to this point. I use a French curve. Now I'm going to fade the sharp edge out. Number 11, nipple to nipple measurement. My nipple to nipple measurement is 8. When I divide 8 by 2, I'll have 4. Then I'm going to use that 4 to create the center dart. This is 4 here, and I'm going to mark 4 at the bust line. I'm going to also mark 4 at the hip line, like this. And I'll connect these points to this point with a straight ruler. So before I connect the points together, I'm going to step this point down by 2 inches. Then I'll come to the hip level and step this up with 2.5 inches. Then I can now draw my line. The 1 inch we added to the waist area earlier, we are going to use it now. Then half an inch on this side, half an inch on this side. Like this. Then we now connect this point to this point, this point to this point, this to this point, and this point to this point. With a French curve. If you don't have a French curve, just carefully maneuver it with your hand. To create my side dart, I normally measure 2 inches from this armhole point here. Like that. Then, before I remove my tape, I'll add 1 inch on both sides. Because the dart is 2 inches. This point, this point. There's a point here, there's a point here. This is the center point. I'm going to put my ruler at the center point, then meet the nipple point. Then before I draw the line, I'm going to step this nipple point back by 2 inches, which is this point here. Then I cannot draw my line to make this one. Then I connect this point to this point to this point. I think this is all about the front block. The next thing we are going to do is to trim the edges out. Before you finish trimming it out, you have to add like a triangle here to be able to hold the dart in properly. Extend the center line by half an inch. I've successfully trimmed out the front block. Now we're going to move to create the back block. When you now hold this side 2 inches that in, automatically the dress will now jump to 38, which is the exact length of the dress, and the back is going to be 38 like the front. This is the back block. This is 1.5 inches zip allowance folded to the back. Then we're going to create a start line like we did in the front. Your tape at the start line all the way down. The bust vertical measurement is still the same like the front, 10 inches. Mark 10 inches. The front vertical measurement was 16, but the back is going to be 14 because there's no side dart at the back. The 2 inches that we've taken that off, they will mark 14 for the waist vertical measurement. Because we've minus 2 inches, instead of the hip vertical measurement to be 24, it's now 22. The full length will now be 38. The front measurement was 40 because of the 2 inches dart. When you hold the 2 inches dart in, you will definitely have 38 for the front as well. So you rule across, then label your lines. This is the shoulder line, bust line, waistline, hip line, hemline, and the center back. To find the depth of the back neck, we mark 1 inch at the center back. To find the width, we measure 3 inches at the shoulder line. Connect this point to this point. The shoulder measurement is still 8. We step it down with 1/2 inch instead of 1 inch like the front to make up for the armhole. We connect this point to this point. The armhole now will be 8.5. The midpoint will be 4.2.5. Instead of stepping it back by 1 inch like we did in the front, we step it back by 1/2 inch. Rule a line across this point here. This will not serve as the upper bust line. The waist circumference is still 9.5 like the front. The 1/4 of the hip line is still 11.5. Same 11.5 at the hemline. The bust circumference is still 10.5. The same at the upper bust. So we connect this point to this point to that point. Connect this point to this point to this point to that point. Fade this edge out. For the dart, it's still the same. Measure for the bust line, 4 inches at the hip line. Before you connect the line, 1.5 inches up. From this point, you step it up by 1/2 inch. Then you connect 1/2 inch on this side, 1/2 inch on this side, like we did in the front. Connect the 4 parts together. To finish up with the zip allowance, you reduce the waistline with 1/2 inch. Connect this to the end. You also take the edge in with 1/2 inch. For the back slit, you measure 8 inches upward. Then the 1/2 inch, this point here, connect it like this. Now we're going to take this part off. This is the back block already completed. This is the back block and this is the front block. Both of the blocks are completed. When you hold this dart in, you have the same full length with the back. This is block 1, a straight dress block. I'm going to construct a pencil dress block from this straight dress block. You measure 1 inch from the hip line down the side seam. You come down to the hem line and reduce the line by 2 inches. Like that. Then you connect this point to this point. You will still create exact same thing to the back block. You carefully fold the edge of the line backwards. This is block 2, a pencil dress block. You don't need 2 blocks for this. You can use straight dress block to create a pencil dress block. And I'm also going to show you how you can use this straight dress block to create a line dress block. All you need to do, bring another piece of a block paper Place this on top. Mark out the same lines. Then you trim this part and this part off it. This is the block piece. I'm going to attach it to the main body. That's it. This is the number 3 A-line dress block. When you want to use this A-line dress block to cut out fabric, you leave the center dart flat. You don't hold it in because it's a loose dress. The only dart you hold is the side dart to give your bust a proper fitting. When you want to cut out your fabric with the back block, you also attach this same block piece to the back. It's just one piece. You don't need to. This is block 1, the straight dress block. When you put this to the back, it automatically turn to block 2. This is block 2, the pencil dress block. When you attach this piece to it like this, automatically it will turn to the A-line dress. This is block 3, A-line dress block. I think this is all I have for you today. Please subscribe, share and comment. Thanks for watching. See you in my next video. God bless you.